You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Well, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I've got my buddy Tim Lesser in the Cybertruck here with me at the Western Hunt Expo. We're giving away this truck at Peaks.
You're giving it away?
It's giving it away. This thing's like, I don't know. I think they're like 100, 110 grand or something.
I honestly
insane.
have no idea, but you just scared the heck out of me. You told me that if we did something to that gas pedal, that we're pointed at a big electrical pole.
It is on right now. And if you put your foot on that gas, it will go.
Yeah.
And
Really fast.
we're about 10 feet from a concrete column. I mean, if there's anybody you don't like, now's your chance.
That terrifies me. I'm just going to be honest.
Funny. I've been sitting here, like, as I get in, Bryce was like, he owns Peaks. He's like, put your foot to the side and, just don't put it there. And I would think that it has sensors in it that would say, I won't drive you into something.
Well, because what they can't, there's probably 12 people between us and this pole that's 10 feet away.
Yeah.
At any given time. And that wouldn't go well. Huh.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, folks, this is the second go around because we just recorded a podcast that no one on planet Earth will ever hear.
You said recorded.
I know my memory card was full the whole time, and so we got nowhere. So, Tim, it's great to see you again.
I feel like I know the questions.
Yeah. No, we were just catching up. I met you through your wife, Riza. And she was working at Leupold.
She was.
And she's now at Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation?
She's been there a couple of years.
And you have been at Leupold for 2 decades?
Yeah, 22-ish years. Definitely a second family.
You have been there a while, my
I have.
friend.
It's a great place.
And we met through Riza, and then I started working with Leupold, thanks to her influence and her
it was there for that. You were almost being forced into that. Like you had an option out.
Oh,
she's very persuasive.
She is persuasive, and she brought me into the light. And ever since then, I have just grown to love Leupold. There's a lot of people who don't know that. I grew up in the Northwest.
Yeah,
and Leupold's in our backyard right there in Beaverton. I grew up in Oregon City, and Leupold family owned, and it had all these values and things and people that, it's got, American made, all this sort of things that I value in a company.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I actually went through a little bit of a tough time. And it was tough. And I called Bruce up to tell him, hey, having some tough times, and he said, he's the Bruce Pettit, CEO of Leupold. Yep. And he's like, Brent, look, I know you feel like you're going through a tough time, and you are, but you'll get through it. That meant a lot to me.
He's good with that. The company is good about that stuff.
Now, I'm a little upset that Riza left. I'm not going to lie. I've made that clear to everyone there. But thankfully, you're still there. And it's been a pleasure. I'm grateful that we have a relationship. We've known each other all these years. We hunted together on Kodiak, and you really get to know someone when you hunt with them and you suffer with them and you go through stuff. I've hunted with Adam Weatherby a number of times too, put him through the ringer. You really learn like what someone's made of. And you and I got to hang out with Cole Kramer, hunt Kodiak Island, shoot some blacktails, some foxes, all that kind of stuff. And you learn about people there.
There's something about only 6 hours of daylight and small, bomb-proof tents that there aren't many secrets after that.
And we had some nasty storms, so that was a wild one. And that's where we pulled the stovepipe down out of the chimney because the storm was, shaking coals. You got like sparks flying and stuff. So
and it never happens when the fire's about dead. Well, it's always right after you've stoked it.
And I think it was the other fellas, Adam Foss Was it their tent that got shredded by a buck in heat? Hello, friends. We had a great, gritty movie night at the Hunt Expo. Now it's time to release the film for everyone to see. It'll be here March 9th, along with a huge giveaway we're doing with a bunch of gear and a fun, cool activity. Not only do you win a bunch of gear, but you're going to fly out here, hang with us at the Wild Arrow Archery Shop. Jay is going to put your bow together. Jeremiah is our star of the film. And it's going to be a great experience. You get a workout over at Black Flag. It's going to be fun.
Join us on the Gritty Podcast.
You could win it all. We're going to share those details when we drop the film on March 9th. Hope to see you on our Gritty Films YouTube channel for that drop. Now let's get back to the show.
It was. Yeah, he was in there raking on their tent.
Yeah, I think it had to have duct tape and sewing and a little
they were
repair
out there
job.
Stitching it up.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
And so that was a pretty killer experience. And great memories there. Now, you took a beautiful blacktail buck on that trip, made a tough shot through the gauntlet. And people can see that video if they go back and look at some old Gritty films. Mm-hmm. And that buck, perfect lighting, covered in water. You smacked that thing and it just like...
It was kind of a special... just like you said, the lighting and everything was great.
I like to take credit for that buck.
You deserve credit. You spotted that buck. And
it was bigger than mine.
You were very gracious. So what he's not saying is he had just shot his, and we were getting up there, kind of checking his out, and he's in the middle of, or headed that way.
Yeah.
Right. And he's, Cole, what about this one? And if you haven't met Cole Kramer, he'll get very businesslike when it's time to go do work.
Yeah.
And he's kind of, in a polite way, telling Brian to stop looking for deer because we've got one on the ground out here in front of us.
And also kind of suggesting you have no idea what a big deer looks like.
Yeah.
So please just stop.
There were subtle undertones of, I guarantee you that's not a shooter, Brian. And then he looked at it and he was wrong.
Yeah, he was. He's like, wait a minute. Grab your gun. We got 2 bucks like within a matter of minutes, and
we did.
And we have photos of us like side by side. We drug them all over. They were like right next to each other, and 2 giant, beautiful Kodiak blacktail bucks. And that was a special hunt for sure.
It was a great trip all the way around. Tsunami.
Mm-hmm. And there are a few people more fun than Cole. I did the same thing on another hunt. I was telling you earlier on a goat hunt.
Yep.
Kodiak Island. Same thing. We see a goat. We do the stalk. Casey Harbison shoots it. My friend Casey. We get over to the goat. We're hanging around, kind of like before. It's a little deja vu. And I go, and there's some mountain goats around. And he's like, none of them are shooters. None of them. Okay, cool. But then I see this goat walking by, kind of up on this hill and looking down. And I'm like, wow, that looks like a nice goat. So I'm like, I didn't want to. I know the routine.
You've been through this.
I've been
before,
there. I'm like, if I go, hey, Cole, what about that one? He's gonna be like, oh, seriously, Brian, do you ever quit? And so I'm like, cool. What about that one? He's like, oh, Brian, and he starts already like going off and
right into
pulls his binos out. He's like, grab your gun. So then I shot that goat. I was like, huh. It's like the same exact thing happened on 2 different hunts.
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm hearing is Brian actually finds all the shooters. That's what I've witnessed it.
Yeah, I can't help it. But yeah, it was special. So we're here at the Western Hunt Expo, and I'd like to know what is going on over at Leupold that's got you the most excited. Like, what's going on? What do you got that's in the pipeline?
Yeah, we've got several new products coming out, but probably the biggest one that I'm most excited about is in our VX series of rifle scopes, so the Gold Ring hunting line.
Yep.
The VX6, we have a second generation of that. So a VX-6HD Gen 2 version. I've got one here with me, and what we've done is the optical system on these is phenomenal already to begin with. And so, you look at harsh light, tough light, eye box, all of those things that go into making a scope truly great in terms of optical performance. This is carrying that again into the second generation.
So it's kind of a given. That's already in there.
It is. Yep. And what we've done is doubled down on the adjustment adjustments themselves and the adjustment turret inside of the scope. And so for those that are familiar with our line, we have a Mark V HD that is a kind of military and competition grade of rifle scope.
Yeah.
And really what you need from that type of a scope is to be able to adjust the dials for every single shot, even if that's 200 times a day at a competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have taken that adjustment system and put it into our VX series here. So you've now got full competition grade adjustments on your hunting scope. And then to top that off, when you look at the way that the dial interfaces, we've made it so that you don't need any tools. There's a little silver button on here. I'm not sure how well that'll show up. You push that button.
Dang.
Lever comes up, and then the dial will come off if you want to put a CDS dial that's matched to your ballistics, right? So now if it's a 400-yard shot, I just turn it to the 4, aim right where I want to hit. Or if it's just a matter of I left Oregon and I'm going to Colorado and I want to check 0. The airlines have had the scope, so now I could just slide it, sight in, put it back to 0, flip the lever down, and that's locked in place just like it was with the set screws, but I don't have to carry the wrenches around. I do still have one in my wallet. I've got one in my truck. I've got one everywhere. Riza gives me a little bit of grief because I keep one in my hat band. I can't lose that.
You are such a tech nerd.
I'm a nerd. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I've just learned to accept it.
Tell me about this CDS dial. Talk a little bit about, expand on that.
Yeah. So there's a few ways to compensate for distance, and kind of the traditional way of doing that was I would sight in, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, pick your number, high at 100 yards, and then I would be good out to 250, and then I'd start kind of estimating how high I need to hold up on the top of the back, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. CDS, what that's designed to do, it's custom dial system. We don't know exactly what you're shooting when you buy the scope. It could be a 6 PRC. It could be a 300 Win Mag. We don't know that. But once you buy the scope, you get a free CDS dial, and all it takes is a quick phone call to us, or there is an online entry form. But basically, the info that's on the box. So what weight bullet is it? What type of bullet? All that's listed on there. Muzzle velocity. And what we do is we run that through a ballistics program to find out exactly how far it drops at each of those distances, and we mark the distance on the dial. So instead of having it marked in minutes of angle around there, and you need to do some voodoo to figure out how many minutes of angle and all of that, you just use your rangefinder. And when the rangefinder says he's 400 yards away, you turn your dial to the 4, and that's exactly where the bullet's going to hit.
Okay, I've never been like this sniper shooter gun guy. Mostly started out gritty bowman for a reason.
Yeah.
So as I expanded into a lot more rifle hunting over the years, so I could just do more hunts and a lot of bear hunting, we tend to do rifles. We try to get 2 to 3 bears a year and really love the meat and all that. Well, I've gone down the rifle range a lot over the last decade. And from that sort of layman's point of view, it's like, why didn't companies come up with this a long time ago? It's a lot easier to dial to 400 than to do the MOA math.
Way easier. It's way easier. And honestly, the outfitter that I worked for, this isn't really, I'm not fabricating this. We were using athletic tape on military scopes. I learned it from him. I'm not taking credit for this, but
you were translating it.
We were using military scopes that had the bigger dials.
Wow.
And we would go shoot them on the range, or out on the ranch that we were on. We just set targets up down a road and back up and shoot at it. But as soon as you were hitting in the center at 300, we'd use a sharp
marker.
And one of the guys at Leupold, I didn't work there yet, so this is over 22 years ago, saw that, and he's like, what are you doing there? Because when it was time for him to shoot his antelope, there was a really good one. It scored almost 86 inches. It was a big buck, but it was out there 600 yards, and he didn't quite know. He wasn't comfortable. He said, well, if you use my rifle, I'm just going to turn this to the 6, and you're going to hold on his shoulder, and he's going to die. And that's exactly how it went. I arranged it, turned the dial, he held there, had all the trust in the equipment, pulled the trigger, and welcome to the record books.
Yeah.
Well, his wheels were turning faster than mine. He says, couldn't we just engrave that onto the actual dial and make it replaceable? And it kind of felt dumb.
That's what I mean.
And like, oh, there you go. There was the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And that's when CDS started. So.
Yeah, because if you take that nowadays, like, a guy will have his app in his phone.
Yeah.
And you'll do your range and you'll put it into the, and you'll plug in the, kind of your
all of it, atmospherics and bullet and velocity.
And you got your buck and you're like, okay, boom. And then it spits it out, dial to this MOA. And then you're like, and you're dialing. Okay.
And then he walks.
And then Yes. Or you shoot once, wind, whatever, and now you're the time it takes to adjust and do that whole thing over again while he's kind of on the move, and you have a second shot opportunity, but you just aren't doing it right.
Yeah.
That just seems really inefficient. So with the custom dial, it's pretty sweet because you're ranging, you kind of know, like you said, you're hunting in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
You know your temperature pretty much. You know your elevation. You know all the ballistics data. So you can get a dial created for that place, and it's like for hunting 600 yards and in for sure. Like the margin of error is so forgiving. You're ready to go.
At 600 yards and under, the amount of variance by changing the elevation slightly, a couple thousand feet or 20 degrees for hunters at, call it 600 yards and under, that little bit of variation is so minor that we do it constantly out on our shooting facility. Yeah. Somebody will be like, I use Mills and I use my Kestrel. And we'll say, okay, let's race. And the guy with the CDS dial has cleaned all 6 targets before the first guy has started dialing.
That's so...
And it's so powerful for hunters, right? Because you don't have all day to get comfortable, and things, they move, things change.
So you range, dial, shoot. You're like, he's 420, dial 420. But he chases a doe and he climbs that hill, and now you range again. He's 470. It's just, you just turn to 470.
Yeah, or have your buddy do it. Keep ranging while you're in spot. He ranges and turns.
Yes, yeah. Calculating 470, then it's this much MOA, and then you're looking at your dial to see where you are at MOA, and then trying to add the math and stuff. It just, there's a lot of room for error too in that if you don't dial it just right because you did it wrong. There's a lot of processing. So the only downside I could see is you got that dial on your rifle, and now you got to hunt, a month later, and now you're hunting at 12,000 feet, and it's, 0 degrees. You're no longer at 40 degrees and 3,000 feet. How do you address that?
Then you just get another dial. And so that, what we can do on that is we just need to know those numbers. And so you just call me and say, hey man, I'm headed to Colorado. I'm going to be at 12,000. It's going to be 0, whatever it is. It's just math. Again, the same thing that you would be doing on your Kestrel in the field, but we do it ahead of time for those environments or those environmentals, and you have that dial. And so that's kind of the beauty of being able to change this one quickly without the tool is you to take off the one for sea level or 3,000 feet, put on the one for 12,000, and now all those numbers are right.
When I did this at the Leupold shooting school that I went to, that you guys put me on, you get the dial. And there it does. It tells you your elevation. It tells you all the information you need to go which dial's which.
Yeah.
It's all right there.
It's all right on top of it. What caliber, all of it.
We had like 3 dials laid out. It's like, which dial do I need for this particular hunt? And a guy can collect the dials he needs for Mexico to Alaska to New Zealand, low elevation, high elevation, all that stuff.
Across the board. Yep. And it doesn't take a pile of them. So we get one for free with the scope. On these Gen 2 VX6s, we're actually giving you a couple. We want people to use this. We're finding a lot of folks are waiting for that ideal dream hunt. You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to wait until I do my Montana elk trip or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We want people using these because we do believe it makes you more successful, and that once you try it, you won't go back.
Yeah.
And so we're on the VX6HDs there, the Gen 2s. We'll give you 2 dials. Get one right away and go see how powerful that tool is.
That's cool.
And even if you go somewhere else where you can practice, you're like, oh, I'm a few thousand feet higher. I'm going to try it. Range a rock out there, in a no pressure situation. Range it, shoot at it with your dial. I bet you'll be surprised. I was surprised. I was also getting better at shooting, and the school was great. It allowed me to learn how to set up, create a stable platform. Like if I'm in the willows and there's a moose coming by, and it's like there's no place to get prone. I'm on a hill, like using my backpack, my trekking poles, my tripod, a tree, various things to like build up a stable platform. That was really educational. It was really helpful for me and gave me a lot more confidence being able to hit stuff when the conditions weren't just
perfect.
Just perfect. Yeah. I'm spoiled a little bit. So you guys come out and do that. Well, I go through it every year and I learn something new every year. And obviously it's a perishable skill. The shooting component is. So just refreshing each year before hunting season helps, but I'm always picking something up from those guys. They'll watch me struggle on a target. And then later on, after I missed it once or didn't hit quite where I wanted to, they'll slide in and make a suggestion, right? Because they've watched hundreds of people and they train people, like you and I and people that do this professionally to keep us safe. So they've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And they come in and they just, what if you tucked this elbow in, put your bag here, hold the tripod in beside you? It's on your pack. Why are you doing that? Set it out here and use it as a secondary. And it makes you way more proficient.
I had a real paradigm shift too, because I watched, for example, Caleb Stillion's freehand smack a target at 500 yards with a rifle, a steel target across a canyon, just holding it, ting, ting. And I'm like, oh.
That always makes me feel good.
Oh, like I can barely do that laying down prone. And that was an eye opener. Maria Lovely was one of those shooters too, who seemed to just really be able to make any platform almost work and just execute.
And
I think women in general sometimes can be just solid shooters. I keep seeing that, like, it's kind of annoying.
We noticed it in guiding, and the way I equated it was kind of, the typical guy will be like, I've been hunting for 20 years, I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
The typical golfer will be like, I only golf once a year, but I've been doing it for 20 years and I'm terrible, right? But if you only hunt once a year for 20 years, you're a veteran and you know everything about it. And the women come out and are open to what is the better way of doing this, and then they do it. And imagine that the teacher that does this all day, every day, set them up for success. And I watch them outperform me, and I'm like, what's going on? They said, well, she's listening. She's doing what we asked her to do, and you're doing what you think is right. And it's kind of humbling. But we have seen that over and over again with our clients, and when I was guiding in other places, women tend to be better.
I think that, and I think Joel Turner mentioned this too, they tend to be more relaxed. There's something about the female, part of the problem is, as guys, we want it more. Like, a lot of the gals I've hunted with are like, it's cool if I get it, and if I don't. For us, it's like, if I don't get it, I'm a loser, and I shouldn't deserve to live. It's like we have this
a bunch of self-imposed
we put
pressure.
this pressure on ourselves where the ladies are like, keep it in perspective, guys. It's just an animal with bones on its head, All right, folks, we got a new discount code for you for a product you can try if you want to. It's Black Flag's Revenge. It's kind of like Mountain Ops Ignite. I love Ignite. I love the pink lemonade. If you use the code Gritty over at Mountain Ops, you'll save. If you use the code Gritty over at Black Flag, you'll save. I like the Black Flag Pink Plunder. It's a little bit of a intense energy, what do you call it? Energy drink?
I guess it'd be a pick-me-up?
Workout kind of pick-me-up drink. For all you
addiction-related folks?
Yeah, for those that are that don't feel much from caffeine, you should try the Revenge. It's got a little kick to it. We love both partners, both companies. Work with both of them. We're going to have some drinks coming from Stealthy Nutrition soon. So we'll have that too. But like them all, try it out. If you need a little pick-me-up, check out the new Black Flag Revenge. I like that. Peak Plunder. They have like a couple Sunrise something.
I don't remember the names of it.
But use the code Gritty over there. Go to
Black Flag. So it's BLKFLG.com.
Check that out. Use the code Gritty and let us know what you think.
That's fair.
And so I think some of that is just us just being guys and trying to prove things to the world and people around us in a way that women don't feel that same drive, They're probably caught up in beauty supplies. I mean, I'm not trying to stereotype any ladies.
I'm staying out of this one.
Okay.
He said that.
So, yeah. Anyway. But we're going to head over to the Leupold booth right now and hang out over there. But folks, if you got any questions or comments, leave them in the description field below. Let us know what you think about the show. And check out the new scope over at Leupold. And let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next show. Stay gritty.